Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Shri Chinmaya Yatishasya Gurum Vande Tapovanam Tam Himavat Vibhutim Vai Jnana Vairagya Rupinam Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Shri Saraswati Namaha Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati'r dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, my humble pranams to all. So in this beautiful Upanishad, we have covered part of the first question. There were 6 students, and the first one asks, Kuta hava ima praja prajayanta iti. O Bhagwan, O Guru, O Lord, from where does this praja come? This entire praja. He not only means this human beings, but this entire world. And he's not asking for the source as male and female, but what is the original source from where this whole universe is created. And the Rishi answers, with people are the Rishi. He says it is Prana and Rai, and it was Prajapati who created these two. Prana and Rai, and Prana we have studied is the energy, the sentient principle, and Rai is the matter, not only visible matter, but the subtle matter also, like the mind, the intellect, and so on. Whatever you see and even whatever you don't see, whatever is in this universe is Rahi. And then he also equated them to Surya and Chandrama. Surya is the sun, Chandrama is the moon. And he says that this whole creation is as a result of Chandrama and moon. And it is Prajapati who himself becomes these two, creates these two. And the Surya is the energy giving principle, because of which we are able to function and which gives life to all beings. And moon is said to be the world of matter, because moon does not have its own light, it does not have its own energy, borrows from the sun. But when the Rishi mentions the world of sun and moon, and he does not talk about these planets or this circle of fire, but he's talking about the deity, the Surya Devta and the Chandra Devta. And then he says Surya is also prana, it is also the energy. And in the next couple of mantras, we'll be talking more about prana. And he is Vaishwanara. Vaishwanara means he is all beings. Everything that you see is that Surya alone, which is Prajapati alone. And Vaishwanara also is the inner fire. So the fire in the sun, the fire in the kitchen, and the fire within us is all Surya, is all that southern, that northern deity. And then he says those who follow the path of the sun, and then he divides time. He says time also, Prajapati himself became time. He created time. And time is the year, Samvatsara, the 1 year. And that also the Rishi divides into Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Uttarayana is the northern path, the solar path, following which people go to path of no return. They go to Brahma Loka. And the southern path is those who follow this path, go to the world of moon, where they enjoy either heaven or the lower worlds, depending on their karmas, and then they return. So one is na punaravartante, other one is punaravartante, they return. And then he talks a little more about the glory of the sun. It is effulgent, it is hiranmaya, it is all-knowing, it is the source of all light, it is 1,000 rays and 100 different forms. As we know, the sun looks different each time. Each month of the year, it looks different. And then the Rishi also talked about the chariot on which the sun rides, which he describes as 12 horses, which is the 12 months of the year. The 12 forms of the sun is the 12 months of the year. The 7 horses which drive this symbolic chariot are the 7 colors of the rainbow, or the 7 days of the week. And then the wheel has 6 spokes representing the 6 seasons. And so this everything is Prajapati. Time is Prajapati, sun and moon are Prajapati, the higher worlds, the lower worlds, everything is Prajapati, and the year is also Prajapati. And then he describes the month, which he describes as Krishna Paksha and Shukla Paksha. Shukla Paksha is when the moon is increasing, and in Krishna Paksha, the moon is decreasing. And it is said the Krishna Paksha is the time for activity, and Shukla Paksha is Shukla Paksha, the bright time, is the time of activity, and Krishna Paksha is the time of rest and relaxation. But he says, but those who are good people, they do good deeds throughout the month. They don't consider Krishna Paksha or Shukla Paksha. And those who are sense enjoyers, they don't consider Krishna Paksha, Shukla Paksha. The whole month they spend in sense enjoyment. So sun represents knowledge, and the moon represents love and romance. That's why a person tells his beloved, your face is like the moon. Nobody says your face is like the sun. Actually, the only one you can say face is like the sun is Bhagwan, because in the 11th chapter, when he shows his divine roop, we just studied yesterday also, Divi Surya Sahasrasya Bhaved Yuga Padutita Tadibha Sadrishi Sasyat Bhasas Tasya Mahatmanaha. So when Sanjay sees this Virat roop of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, he says it is as if 1,000 suns have risen simultaneously in the universe, but it is a very soothing, very pleasing energy. So far we have seen the year is Prajapati, the month is Prajapati, time is Prajapati. How about the day? So the Rishi will address that in the 13th mantra. Ambika, would you be able to chant, please? अहोरात्रो वै प्रजापतिः
अहोरात्रो वै प्रजापतिः
तस्या हरेव प्राणः
तस्या हरेव प्राणः
रात्रिरेव रयिः
रात्रिरेव हरैः
प्राणं व एते प्रस्कन्दन्ति
प्राणं वा एते प्रस्कन्दन्ति
ये दिवारत्या
ये दिवारत्या
संयुज्यन्ते
संयुज्यन्ते
ब्रह्मचर्यमैव
ब्रह्मचर्यमेव
तद्यद्रात्रौ
तद्यद्रात्रौ
रत्या संयुज्यन्ते.
रत्या संयुज्यन्ते.
We can all chant together. अहोरात्रो वै प्रजापतिः तस्या हरेव प्राणः रात्रिरेव रयिः प्राणं वा एते प्रस्कन्दन्ति ये दिवारत्या संयुज्यन्ते ब्रह्मचर्यमेव तद्यद्रात्रौ रत्र संयुज्यन्ते. So now the Rishi is telling us that the day also is Prajapati. So day consists of two parts, Aha and Ratra. So day and night. Why? They are also indeed Prajapati alone is also the time, also is day and night. But tasya of that Aha eva, the day alone is pranaha and ratrihi eva rayi. So the day is prana and the night is rayi. And now he's coming to the question of the student, kutaha ima praja prajayanta iti, from where is this praja coming? So now he's coming to the basic answer. After having talked about Prajapati, sun, moon and all, he says, Pranam va ete praskandanti. Prana means here means the energy, indeed, ete, those praskandanti, who waste their energy. Who are those? Ye deva ratya samyujyante. Those people, deva, in the daytime, ratya samyujyante, they contact the opposite sex in the daytime. So those who contact in the daytime are wasting their energy, but tad yad ratrau, but those who indulge in this act at night time, brahmacharyam eva, they follow brahmacharyam. You say, how can that be brahmacharyam? We'll talk about that. Ye ratrau Pratya samyujyante, those who indulge in this act at night time. So here he is saying that the day and night is also Prajapati, and the day is meant for work, for energy. So it has to be productive. That's what the day is. It's time of productivity, time of energy, time of work, and the night time is the time of rest and the time of relaxation. And so those who do not follow this, they waste their energy, they waste their time. And here, when he's talking about indulging, he's talking at the same time about having self-control, having some vairagya. And this act should also be done under self-control. That's why we have 4 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So first purushartha is dharma. That means all my activities should be guided by dharma. Dharma here does not mean religion. Dharma here means right conduct. So my artha should be determined by right conduct. That means what I am earning, what I am working, what I am possessing, that should be governed by dharma. and kama. Kama means sense enjoyments, not only at night time, but whatever I enjoy through the eyes, what I see, what I take in through the mouth, what I hear, what I speak, all those should be governed by dharma. So dharma should determine artha and kama, and ultimately the goal is moksha. So all my activities, when they are done under the control of dharma, and what determines dharma? The scriptures. So what is in the scriptures, I have to follow. And then a person who follows this path and lives a life of vairagya, then does not complain, because then his life is going in the right direction. And whatever comes to him as a result of his actions, he accepts as prasad buddhi without complaint. Oh Bhagwan, whatever you have given me is your prasad, and I accept it without complaint, and everything is meant for my evolution, meant for my growth. Talking about complaint, there was this lady whose mother-in-law, her whole family came for a huge dinner. And so the mother-in-law was, where are your kids? She said, well, sorry, they haven't come yet. When they arrive, oh, your kids are always late. They never come in time. And then mother-in-law insisted on sitting at the head of the table. Her husband had passed away, and she said, I'm going to sit at the head. I am the head of the family. So she sits at the head of the table. And the lady had worked very hard all day, 6-7 hours to make the food. But by the time she brought the food, thoda time lag gaya, it was little late. Your food is always late. Children are late. Your food is always late. So she serves the mother-in-law, and soon as they're done eating, mother-in-law gets up to pick up the dishes. She's, I need to pick up the dishes quickly, otherwise your dessert will also be late. So as soon as she gets up, the clock, there was a huge grandfather clock that was with a nail, and that nail came off, and the grandfather clock fell on the chair of the mother-in-law and crushed the chair. The chair was broken. Luckily, mother-in-law had just got up. If it was a second later, I don't know what would have happened. So the daughter-in-law softly says, this grandfather clock, that is also always late. Never on time. So, so this person lives his life without complaint and does whatever comes, whatever my duty is. Not why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? And this is not only for sense pleasures, but even in eating, we find now science tells us, what does science say? Eat in the daytime. Don't eat late in the evening. Don't eat at night. Don't eat car. So even science is coming down to what our rishis had said thousands of years ago, that everything has to be in self-control and living a life of right activity and living in tune with nature's laws, because we are all product of nature. We are made of the 5 elements. And so living my life in tune with nature, and that means sleeping at the right time, waking up at the right time, doing all my activities in the right way. So all that is suggestion of the rishi. It's not a command. It's not that thou shalt do this or thou shalt go to hell. No, the rishi says, it is my suggestion. Even Bhagwan in the Bhagavad Gita says, yat echasi tat guru, do whatever you think, but this is my advice. And what he says is, conserve your energy. Do not waste your energy in useless pursuit, but slowly rise above sense pleasures. See, live a life of moderation, of self-control, and rise above sense pleasures and rise above body identification. Because we have such a strong identification. I am this body, and all our life is meant for nourishing this body, fattening this body, giving pleasures to this body. So rise above body identification and slowly reach that state of immortality, which is your true nature. But does not mean that the act is condemned. They say this act is necessary for progeny, to have children. We need to, but it has to be under self-control. And in the ancient times, rishis used to chant mantras before they would act for procreation, so that the child that may be born may also be a very divine child. And that's why we find rishis, children were always great rishis. So that's what they're saying, that day is for energy, night is for rest, and the day and night are also Prajapati alone. Aho ratro vai Prajapatihi. So Prajapati himself has become the year, time, sun and moon, the month, and also the day. Now he will talk about Annam. We have talked about Annam before being food, but Annam, what is Annam? What is food? And we have talked about Atta, who is the consumer of food. So we'll do Shloka number 14. Ramaben, would you like to chant? Shloka number 14. You can unmute, please. Annam vai prajapatihi.
Annam vai prajapatihi.
Tatoha vai tadretaha.
Tatoha vai tadretaha.
Tasmadimah praja.
Tasmadimah praja.
Prajayanta iti.
Prajayanta iti.
Together. Annam havai prajapatihi. Tato havai tadretaha. Tasmadimah praja prajayanta iti. So he says, Annam, this food that we consume, is Prajapati, because of the sun, the soil is nourished. And then Bhagavan says, even the Bhagavad Gita, I nourish the plants, I nourish the herbs as the moon, and as the sun, I provide energy. So everything is me. So here it says everything is Prajapati, which is Bhagavan himself, which is the supreme consciousness functioning through Maya, the creative power, becomes Prajapati. So Annam, the food which is consumed, is also Vai Prajapati. And from that food, Vai indeed comes Retaha, Tad Retaha. Retaha means the male seed. The male seed that is used, and also is not mentioned here, but it is understood the female ovum, which is called Shonitam. So one is called Retaha, one is called Shonitam. These two are also food, and it is because of food that they are produced, and then when they two combine in the mother's womb, it is her food which nourishes the baby, and so everything is food alone. And tasmat ima praja prajayanta iti. Therefore, from those two, the Reta and the Shonitam, this praja prajayanta, this praja is created. So prajayanta is created. So now Rishi is answering that same question at the basic level. He had already talked about the cosmic level, now at the human level. So Annam we already studied is the food, and Retas and Shonitam are the seed and the ovum. So Gurudev in his commentary very beautifully said that the food is Prajapati, the man is Prajapati, the seed is Prajapati, the woman is Prajapati, her ovum is Prajapati. So when the combination comes, the child is Prajapati, nothing but Prajapati. That means you and I are Prajapati. We are that supreme consciousness in this form. So one should never forget that. Just as cause is always in the effect. See, just as a pot is nothing but mud, whether it's pot, cup, saucer, ornaments are nothing but gold, whether it's necklace, bangle, it's all gold with different name and form. So you and I are Prajapati. We are that supreme creator, the supreme consciousness functioning through Maya. And a Jivan Mukta realizes that there was only one consciousness. There is no creation. Brahman alone is appearing as all this name and form. But you and I, we think ourselves different from God, and we think ourselves different from each other. So that is the ignorance. But our wise masters of the past, they worshipped all. If you look at our scriptures, they worshipped the trees, they worshipped rivers, Ganga Mata, or all Narmada, all the rivers were worshipped. They worship the mountains, the Himalayas. They worship birds, Garuda. They worship snakes, around Lord Shiva. They worship mice, Ganesh Bhakta. So the point is that our great rishis knew that all this creation, Ima Praja, is all from Prajapati, is that one consciousness alone, and appearing in different names and forms, but they were able to go beyond name and form, beyond body identification, to understand that this whole universe is Brahman, is Prajapati, and I am also that. So not forgetting, you may say whole world is God, but I am also divine, and that is my true nature. This body, mind, and intellect, of course, will function. And that's why Bhagavan Sri Krishna says it very beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. He says it is very hard to find a Mahatma who sees this whole world as Vasudeva. Seeing this whole world as Bhagavan Sri Krishna, that is the sign of a Mahatma. But one who does not is ignorant. And then another commentary changed. He says, you instead of saying Vasudeva, you say Vasudhaiva. Put a the instead of the, put a the. The Vasudhaiva, if you put, then Vasudha is earth. So Vasudha eva. So this whole earth has become all of us. So we are all one with that earth. So that means one should protect the earth, protect the environment, and see everything as Bhagwan's creation, Bhagwan's manifestation. And that's why in Hinduism, we never attacked anybody, never attacked any kingdom, never tried to conquer, never tried to capture, because we saw that one divinity in all. Others attacked us, captured us, conquered us from all different parts, from the other countries, from the Northwest and all. So the basic Vedic culture is to see the one divinity in all and to respect all. Ancient Indians did travel to Philippines, to Malaysia, to Indonesia, but they traveled not to conquer, but to spread this culture, this wisdom. So never we have found that any time we have attacked another country to capture. So that is the idea, Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. And that's why he says Annam is Prajapati, and whatever comes out of Annam is Prajapati alone. So that is mantra number 14. Shaku, you can please chant the 15th mantra. Tadye havai
Tatve vai
tat prajapati vratam
tat prajapati vrata
charanti te
charanti te
mithunum utpadyante
mithuna mutyapadante
teshamavaisha
teshamevaisha
brahmalokaha
brahmalokaha
yesham tapo brahmacharyam
eshan tapo brahmacharyam
yeshu satyam
yesu satyam
pratishtitam
प्रतिष्ठितम्
All together. Tadye havai
Yehavai
tat
tat prajapati
prajapati vratam charanti te mithunumutpadyante teshame vaisha brahmalokaha yesham tapo brahmacharyam yeshu satyam pratishtitam. So this Prajapati Vrata means living a life of self-control, living a life of dharma, doing regular upasana, but these are still those who are living the life of the moon, where they are desirous of producing offspring. Because even in the mantra, the Rishi had said, even rishis who wish to produce offspring live in this path, the path of the moon. And where do they go? So tadye, so these people, Havai means indeed, for certainty, tat prajapati vratam charanti. So those who follow this prajapati vratam charanti, those who follow, te mithunam utpadyante. Mithunam means pair. Utpadyante means they produce a pair. So which means pair means boy and a girl. So those who follow this vrata and live a life of self-control, they produce a pair. What it means is that not producing too many children. Gurudev in his commentary says not producing excessive amounts of children, but living in life in self-control, and to continue the family, 2 or 3 children. Mithun nam utpadyante tesham eva esha brahmalokaha. Says for them is brahmaloka. You said just now, you said brahmaloka is the one that you don't do all this and you go. So this is a different brahmaloka. So that's why you need a teacher to give. That's why if we didn't have Shankaracharyaji's commentary, these Vedic mantras are so complex, we would have been completely lost. And we have to humbly prostrate to Shankaracharyaji, and our Chinmaya mission follows the Shankara philosophy. So that's why all the Upanishads that have this bhashya are the ones that are covered. So Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji has written a very beautiful bhashya, and whatever extra I am giving besides what Gurudev has written is from that bhashya, so from those commentaries. So here this Brahma Loka is a different one we'll talk about. Tesham eva esha Brahma Lokaha yesham tapo brahmacharyam. So these people who live in tapaha, that is austerity, brahmacharyam is self-control, not overindulgence, and yeshu satyam pratishtitam, who live a life of truth. Pratishtitam means the life is established in truth. So 3 qualities Rishi has given: tapaha, austerity; brahmacharyam, self-control; and satyam, of truthfulness. So as we said, nowhere in our Upanishads there was any mention that man is superior or there should be female infanticide, which unfortunately we see a lot in India. In fact, in some places there have not been female births for like years, and in from that villages people have actually had to go to other states to bring girls to marry, because there are no women being born in some states and some parts of India, which is unfortunate. But the point is that nowhere in our scriptures this is mentioned. In fact, our rishis, there were great rishis also who were female. Maitreyi, who studied Brihadaranyaka Upanishad from Yajnavalkya Rishi, herself became a great rishi and composed a lot of mantras. So the point is that those who live with this type of self-control, this vrata means austerity, they create a pair, and after death they go to Brahma Loka. Now which Brahma Loka? So Brahma Loka, depending on the context, can be many. One is Brahma Loka is where the Supreme Brahman is. That is not a Loka, but that is Brahman alone, and that is the realm of Brahman, which is the whole universe. Then Brahma Loka is the world of Brahmaji, the creator, where people who have followed the northern path, the path of sun, and done a lot of tapas and upasana and karma, good karma. So they go there. That is called Brahma Loka. Here, Brahma Loka is not that highest Loka, but it is heaven, the regular heaven. In heaven, there is Chandra Loka, called Rai Loka, called Pitru Loka. So this heaven is what is referred to in this Brahma Loka. So those people who live a life, again, heaven is not easy to go. To go to heaven also, if you live a life of corruption and dishonesty and cheating others and harming others, even though you may do some dhanam, you have earned money dishonestly and then you are doing charity, it's not going to help. You may get a little punya, but the more important is how you have earned the money. So that's why he says, live with tapas, brahmacharya, and satyam. Tapas means austerity, doing certain religious practices regularly, doing pujas, doing some austerity, some some fasting on occasion, waking up early, meditation and all. And then brahmacharya here means moderation, living a life of moderation, not overindulging in any pleasure, sense pleasures, eating, drinking, all of those. And satyam is truth. What is truth? That what I think, what I speak, and what I do are one. So living a life of honesty. And as we said, when you are living such a life, you will go to heaven, from where you will then come back after having enjoyed your merits. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita, having finished your good punyas, your karmas, you will come back. And they say every action has a drishta phalam and adrishta phalam. Drishta means that which is visible. Adrishta means the punya, which is not visible. So like I produce a child, through procreation. That is the drishta phalam. But what activities have been done by me throughout the day and night and throughout the month and year, that punyam is the adrishta phalam, which is not seen. And people say, what I see is only I believe. If I don't see it, I don't believe it. But there are so many things you don't see. We don't see x-rays. Do we see x-rays? No. But we believe it because it takes pictures. The ultraviolet, the infrared, you don't see. The ears, there are only certain frequencies we can hear. Other frequencies dogs can hear. We can't hear. So our senses have limits. So drishta phalam is what we see. Adrishta phalam is what we do not see. There's a very beautiful story connected with this. So Arjuna and Krishna one time were walking. This was after the Mahabharata war, and they were going from one village to another. It was a very hot, dusty day, a lot of wind blowing. So they didn't wear their royal clothes. They were in normal clothes, and with mud and all, you couldn't even recognize who they were. And so they were walking, and they were end of the day. It was hot. They were thirsty. They were hungry. And they knocked on this very rich palace, very beautiful house. And they tried to enter, and this guard said, "Hey, who are you guys?" So, well, we are here. Can we have a little water, maybe a little food? We have been walking all day. Guard says, "Get out of here. My master doesn't tolerate useless people like you." In the meantime, the master is walking by. He said, "What's going on?" He says, "Sir, these two beggars are here. I don't know what they want. They want food and water." Master says, "Tell them to get lost. Yahan kuch nahi milega. Get out of here." So they leave. Arjuna and Krishna leave. And Krishna, while leaving, he blesses softly to Arjuna, "May this person get lot of wealth." So Arjuna is wondering, is this guy treated us so bad and Bhagwan is blessing him? Then he remembers in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna had said, whatever Shraddha a person has, that I increased. He said, maybe, that maybe. Arjun was a good student. He still remembered. We forget very quickly, but he remembered. So they go further and they go to this old hut, small little hut. And there's this old man sitting in there on the front of the hut, and Arjun and Krishna go and they say, sir, we are very hungry and thirsty. Can we have some water? He welcomes them. Come in, sit down. Whatever little seat he has, he gives them seat, gives them water. He says, I have only one cow and I have very little milk left, but please have this milk. He gives them the milk, whatever little barley he has, he shares it with them and they eat. And, Arjuna is so impressed. He said, look at this man. And his man has only one cow. And as they are leaving, Krishna softly says, may his cow die. So Arjuna said, Bhagwan, what are you doing? The other guy treated us so badly. And you are saying, may his wealth increase. And this poor guy gave all his water, milk, and food. And you are saying, may his cow die. May his cow die. What kind of blessing is that? Bhagwan says, look, that first man wanted more wealth, right? Wealth. So I gave him wealth. Whatever your desire is, I give. He said, but why did you make his cow die? Why did you say that? He says, because the only thing he's attached to is cow. That is the only thing. That is the only thing holding him back. The moment his cow dies, he will merge with me, attain liberation. So I blessed him. So that what we are saying is we see the drishta phalam, this is what, but Bhagwan knows what is the adrishta phalam. So that is what they are saying, that what we do is we want sukha, but we don't do punya. And we don't want suffering, but we keep doing papa. So he says, if you want happiness, do punya. And if you want to avoid suffering, avoid papa. But what we do the opposite. We do the opposite. And that's why in this world, we find there is so much stress, so much conflict, so much, people are on psychiatric medicines and antidepressants and all that. So all the sorrow is because of wrong actions, because not following what our rishis had told us. So today we'll do the last mantra of the first question, and we'll finish the answer to this question. Varsha Ben, you want to read mantra number 16? Teshamasau virajaha
Teshamasho virajaha
brahmalokaha
brahmalokaha
nayeshu
nayeshu
jihvam anritam
jihvam amritam
namaya cheti.
namaya cheti.
Together. Teshamasau virajaha brahmalokaha nayeshu jihvam anritam namaya cheti. So the Rishi, Bhagwan Pipala, the Rishi says, Tesham asau. So this kind of people, what kind of people? Virajaha, who are without rajas. See, what is rajas? Rajas is passion, possession, competing, wanting, getting. So those who live a life free of rajas and live a life of sattva, we'll talk about that. So those who live a sattvic life free of rajas, tamas of course is completely out, but most of us live a life of rajas. So Bhagavan says, live a life of sattvam. What happens to them? Brahma lokaha. They go to Brahma lokaha. This Brahma loka is that loka of Brahmaji, which is not the Jivan Mukti, but that is the loka of Brahmaji. We'll talk about that. We have talked about that before. But that is Krama Mukti, where Brahmaji will teach, and then this person will attain enlightenment. So such a person goes to Brahma Loka, but what is necessary? Eshu Jihvam. Jihvam means deceit, not cheating others. So those who do not cheat others, deceit. Anritam means falsehood, and Maya here means hypocrisy, pretending to be what I am not. Cha iti. So if we look at the previous mantra and this mantra, previous mantra had talked about brahmacharya, tapa, and satyam, and here na jihvam, anritam, na maya, nor deceit, nor cheating others, nor hypocrisy, nor telling untruth. So this is the entire way one should live one's life. So if these two shlokas only we follow, that's all is required. There is nothing else that is needed. So he says, for such a person who has lived this life free of rajas, lived a life of sattva, for him is karma and upasana, where he has done good karmas, he has done upasana of Bhagwan. For him is this Brahma Loka. That's why Bhagwan in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastha Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So he says, always be without these pairs of opposites, because Rajas is a pair of opposites. I want this, I don't want that. So go beyond that. Nitya Sattvastha, live in Sattva, and Niryoga Kshema, and do not worry about where I will get or who will earn for me. Bhagavan says, I will take care of you, he had said in the 9th chapter, and Atmavan, and always be with me, with Atma. And such a person is always one with Prajapati, always with Bhagavan, who lives a life of Sattva beyond pairs of opposites, and following these values that the Rishi has given us. So for such a person, he goes to Brahma Loka, from where then he studies with Brahmaji and then attains enlightenment. And in later shlokas, more will be talked about Brahma Loka in the later mantras of this Upanishad, especially in the 5th query, it is described in detail. And so the qualities we already talked about, not cheating others, anritam means, that's why in Satyameva Jayate na Anritam, that is our motto of India. Na Satyameva Jayate, truth alone prevails, not untruth. And hypocrisy is showing off, pretending to be somebody one is not. And in Mahabharata, these values of deceit, Anritam, and hypocrisy were not values, but these vices were very clearly seen in Duryodhana. He cheated the Pandavas out of his kingdom, even when they came back and refused to give the kingdom back. And Dhritarashtra was equally to blame, even though he knew my son is doing wrong, but he tolerated that. So we can see in them all the three: deceit, Anritam, and Maya, hypocrisy. Jihvam, Anritam, Maya, we can see clearly. And in Arjuna, we see the opposite. That's why Arjuna's name is Arjavam. That is one of the qualities that we teach our children in the Bal Vihar. Arjavam means straightforwardness. And that's how Arjuna was. Lived his life straightforward, what he thought, what he said, what he did. And that's why Bhagwan became his charioteer and showed him Vishwarupa. He doesn't do that for everybody. He doesn't do it for us. But did it for Arjuna, did not even do it for Dhritarashtra or Bhima or anybody, even for Bhishma. So that's why. And the qualities are required to live in Vairagya and reduce desires. So this, throughout this chapter, first query, we have studied that one should live a life of Vairagya, detachment, reduce desires. And it is said that if you have this knowledge and don't live it, you suffer more. See, somebody who has never heard the Upanishads, never studied the scriptures, and then he lives a life of khao-pia, indulging and doing whatever is okay, he doesn't know about it. But one who has learned, who has studied, and still does not practice, then Bhagavan says that person knowingly he's doing wrong thing. I think in Bhagavad Gita I had mentioned that there are two children, one who goes to class in kindergarten and he has never studied what is 2 plus 2. Nobody has taught him. And so he doesn't know the answer 2 plus 2, so he gets 0. But another child had studied at home 2 plus 2 is 4, but in the exam he forgot. So he didn't write what is 2. He also got 0. The result of both is the same. But the one who did not know gets 0, but one who knew, studied and forgot, his 0 is worse, right? His fate is worse. So that's what they say, that having this knowledge, one should live these values, practice tapaha, do some self-control, do some austerity, live a life of truthfulness, do not cheat others, live straightforward with vairagya and self-control, reducing desires. And such a person who, when they do the right karmas, that's why we had said ishta purta. Ishta means doing meditation, study of the scriptures, all that, contemplating upon. And purta is doing good deeds like building hospitals or building orphanages or digging wells. So those who live a life of ishta and purta, but have not become jivan muktas. See, jivan mukta is a different, that is the path of the Upanishads, that is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and going beyond body identification and becoming one with Brahman in this life itself, which we see in Puja Gurudev, Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Tapovan Maharaj, Shankaracharya ji, and so many other great saints who have been born, great realized masters who have, and we were fortunate that, we are directly studying from Puja Gurudev and his students. So we are blessed. So that's what they say. So those who follow this path, they get Brahma Loka. This Upanishad is a commentary on Mundak Upanishad. Mundak Upanishad talks about Apara and Para Vidya. This Upanishad mainly deals up to Brahma Loka. At some places they have mentioned the supreme state of Brahman, because ultimately everything goes to Brahman. But most of the focus of this Upanishad is on the path up to Brahma Loka, which is the Apara Vidya, and the Para Vidya is covered in other Upanishads, but from time to time the Rishi will also mention that. So here we have finished the first query, which the student had asked, Kutaha ima praja prajayanta iti, O Bhagwan, from where has this praja come? So the Rishi, as we said, had talked about Surya, Chandra, Prana, Rai, and the year, the month, the day, everything is Prana, everything is Prajapati, and Prana and Rai are both Prajapati. Time is also Prajapati, and you and I are also Prajapati because we are a product of that. And food also comes from Prajapati, and the man and the woman, they get nourished by Prajapati, and the child is also nourished by that same food. So we'll end here. We have finished the first query. There were 16 mantras. So we did 4 mantras today, and I kind of summarized what the teachings were so far. If anybody has any comments or questions, we have 6-7 minutes, so please feel free to ask. We have quite a bit of time today. Sharat?
Yes, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
You briefly mentioned Ishtam and
Purtam.
Purtam. So it seems like at first glance, when you're reading the 9th shloka here, or 9th verse, that doing the Purtam portion or that path is associated negatively or with desires. Yet when we're specifically talking about Purtam, when we take a look at our mission pledge, when we're singing it, it says that service to our country is service to the Lord, and service to the people is also service to the Lord of Lords. Any comments on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Purtam, again, it depends on whether you're doing Nishkam or Sakam, desire prompted or desire less. If you do good deeds, but with the idea that I may get name and fame, then you will get name and fame. Or some, in the olden days, even now, some people do good deeds so that I may go to heaven. It's not negative. These are all good things, but it depends on the motive. And if your motive is to go to heaven, and also in the ancient times, there were rituals done that were guaranteed that if you perform this ritual, you will go to heaven. So in those days, heaven was the highest goal. A lot of people did not think about Brahman and all. And they said, we'll go to heaven, enjoy, and come back. So if that is your goal, if it is a sakam karma, if it is a desire prompted action, either for success in this world or to go to heaven, then that is the path of moon. That is the path of Rai. But if but karma alone will not take you to Brahma Loka. Karma, if no matter how many good karmas you do, will take you to the path of the moon. You have to do karma plus upasana, plus some meditation, plus jnanam to go to the Brahma Loka, to go to Surya Loka. So Brahma Loka is the same as Surya Loka. It is also for same as Vaikuntha. It is the same as Kailash for Shiva Bhaktas. For Krishna Bhaktas, it is Goloka. For Ram Bhaktas, it is Saket. So if you have done activities, both of them, Ishtapurta, but without desire, unselfishly, and at the same time done some puja, upasana, meditation, study, then you will go to Brahma Loka. So it is the motive behind your action is more important. And of course, if you don't do good deeds, then you will go to the lower world. So that is not addressed in this Upanishad, because the students who have come to the teacher are already very advanced students. They have done a lot of good karma. So here in this Upanishad, there is no mention of going to the lower worlds. There are two different kinds of higher worlds, the path of the sun and the path of the moon. Both are good, but the path of sun is better because there is no return. The path of the moon, you enjoy and then you return. So doing good, of course, one must do. And automatically one who is following the solar path, his actions will automatically be pure. He may not go out and dig wells, he may not build a hospital, but he's studying or he's teaching or he's meditating. So that is the solar path. It doesn't have to be, not everybody has to build hospitals or, build orphanages and wells. It depends on your interest, depends on your prarabdha, depends on how much sattva you have, how much rajas. Some people have rajas, but rajas is mixed with sattva. Another one is sattva predominant, like Tapovan Maharaj. He didn't care about spreading this knowledge or anything. He just sat in Uttar Kashi and said, whoever wants to study will come. And he never went, to spread the knowledge, but Swami Chenmayananda, Puja Gurudev went there, studied from him, and now hundreds of thousands of people are benefiting from one Mahatma, Tapovan Maharaj, sitting in his little kutia. He never had an ashram, no mission, nothing. He just a kutia. He said, Jisko aana hai, sleep on the floor and eat, and whatever bhiksha you get, you eat. He had no interest in worldly things. And people used to bring him food, and sometimes he won't even eat. If he's in samadhi, he says food is lying there, gets spoiled. He was beyond all that. So there are all different kinds of Mahatmas in this world.
Thank you. And just a second quick question. So most of these teachings or Upanishads its audience is the Grihastha, people like us. So we tend to compartmentalize the life of a Grihastha and the life of a Brahmacharya. After a certain age, as we get into the latter stages of our lives, can we slowly transition from Grihastha to a Brahmacharya?
Yes, that's what is said, that actually most of these Upanishads are meant for sannyasis. Prasnopanishad is, of course, householders will benefit, but it is for people who have the desire to attain moksha, Upanishads are the higher knowledge. The other scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and all, are for people who want to, not that Bhagavad Gita is not the Upanishads, but there Bhagavan has made it simple and practical. So yes, one of the teachings in this is that after the householder, after age 50, when one comes into Vanaprastha, slowly one has to reduce all sense desires, all sense indulgences, and spend more time in prayer, meditation, study, slowly withdraw from the work, as much as you can, work whatever little, and do the less amount of work. We don't need to go shopping and travel and do this and do that. Spend as much time as possible with Bhagavan, with the self, and then after that, slowly go to sannyas. So they had divided our time into brahmacharya. The first 25 years is student, next 25 years is householder, next 25 years is vanaprastha, where you withdraw, and then the last 25 years, even great kings and all used to, when they had enough, tired of the world, they used to give the kingdom to their son and then go to the forest, wear orange clothes and go to the forest and then give up the body in meditation. So yes, that's why these 4 ashramas were created by the rishis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice for the question. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.